Hello, 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 and welcome to another edition of the Trequartista Podcast. My name is Giuseppe LaRocca, joined by Noah Curtis and Mike Torres. Boys, how we doing?
Doing well. How about you?
I'm doing well. Doing much better than Rudy Garcia right now, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that was a tough game to watch today.
At this point, it's all knee-jerk reactions, right? It's still sore. Couple of hours after the game, I'm sure we'll have a whole waterfall of emotions coming from this table right here. But especially down Mike's end. I know he's just fuming right now, right? Yeah, I can tell. But we have a very special guest on the show, friend of the podcast, Lorenzo Vicini. You know him from Football Italia. He is the man behind the Ultra Palermo, the Ultra Palermo blog. So really excited to talk to him as Palermo get their first victory in Serie A this season. We'll get to the Roma Bayern Munich match, the 7-1 thwarting.
Thrashing?
No, thwarting.
I don't think thwarting's even a word.
We can't look it up. We have a producer. He's going to look it up for us. We'll say thrashing just to be safe, but I think thwarting is a word. Hopefully, maybe not. We'll also talk Serie A this week and next week, what to expect. But first, let's get to our guest, Lorenzo Vicini. As we mentioned, Football Italia. Lorenzo, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys? I'm doing a lot better after this weekend, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm doing well. Let's talk a little bit about Palermo this season, right? First win, you have Paulo Dybala, who's played well this season, but just talk about the relief after this first win that you have. Should they be in the position that they're in this season, or have they been playing better than what you think that the record indicates?
It's very much the latter, actually. So for those who have been able to watch each game, I mean, if you look at the table, you see, okay, now they have 6 points. Prior to that, it was looking pretty bleak, and people were all jumping on the bandwagon, people going out there saying, well, you know, Palermo is who we expected them to be as a newly promoted side. They're automatically a candidate for relegation, et cetera, et cetera. Yet the results of every game they have played outside of the second half of the Lazio match and the match before this past weekend against Empoli, they have looked like a side that it should be nowhere near the relegation zone. They've been playing some very exciting, free-flowing football, and unfortunately, the results hadn't arrived. When you think about it, they had a team that last season dominated Serie B and were kept largely intact going forward, you know, in this season, giving Beppe Iacchini another shot at redeeming himself in Serie A. What happened? They made a lot of moves on the transfer market, right? They signed a lot of guys who came from outside of Serie A, never had any experience, right? They did a shock sale of Kyle Womanizer Lafferty.
Oh, he loved the women, that guy.
Apparently, if that's the way you got to get rid of a guy, call him a womanizer and he's out the door.
Yeah, but you know, we're in Sicily here. Are they really want to throw, you know, stones at a glass house or whatever? Yeah.
Well, regardless, there was a reason, and obviously it wasn't really the womanizing. There were, behind the scenes, it seemed some tension between Iacchini and Lafferty despite last season's results. So they got rid of him, right? And instead they brought on a Great Dane by the name of Simon Mackinock, who's a giant, but once again, he came from Brøndby, and he's not really experienced in Serie A, so it'll take a while for him to adapt. Then you had another last-minute signing in Joao Silva, who joined from Bari. Now, he's experienced, but he's only played in Serie B, and so far he's been relegated to the bench. Meanwhile, you have 3 starlets from last season, right? You have the revelation of the season. I'm telling you guys, if you still do not know this name, get it stuck in your head. Andrea Belotti is the real deal. The kid was incredible in Serie B last season, coming off the bench. Every time he was on the pitch, he was scoring. Oftentimes match winners, not just, you know, your run-of-the-mill goals. Now, he's still starting sometimes, coming off the bench, but nonetheless, he's scoring and he's doing it at every level. He's a regular feature of a U21 side for Italy that features a lot of big level talent, right? I mean, there's no secret there, right? So you had Belotti, and then, of course, Dybala, who you just said, and the reclamation project of Franco Vasquez, who, I mean, it's a miracle where he is today. Just 1 year ago, the guy was, I don't know, eating limes on the beach in Sicily, looking for a next trip, out of the country. Iachini comes in, he saves him, and just makes him a focal point.
I'm sorry. I have to interrupt you. I'm just envisioning this now, and it's delightful. It's a nice image. Anyway, carry on.
He's not a bad looking guy, right? Hey.
Well, just in general. This is the whole lines in Sicily. Who wouldn't?
Maybe some limoncello. I don't know what it is.
Exactly.
Right? So anyway, he comes in. He's the focal point of this Iachini's method, and he's replicated for the most part his success here in the top flight so far. The problem is this is a young attack. This is an experienced attack, and they're going to have problems, right? They're going to have their dry spells. They've been creating a lot of opportunities, but they haven't been able to finalize the way they should. With Abel Hernandez gone as well, it makes it even more pressure for them to, succeed there.
Right.
But I think one of the biggest things that people don't understand leading up until this game against Cesena was the fact that Palermo were without two of their starters on defense for these first 5 games, okay? Ezequiel Munoz,
who's a huge part of that Palermo team, right?
Huge.
You could argue that he's the motivational leader of that squad, right? He's been with them for 4 years now. This guy's the real deal.
Right, and the crazy thing is he's a veteran and he's only like 23 years old. I mean, he's got a really bright future, and it's only a matter of time, before he finds a bigger club. That's sad to say. So you had him, and then you had last weekend's hero making his first debut, even though he was supposed to be an unquestioned starter. He got hurt in one of the first practices he had with the club, and that, of course, is Costa Rican international Giancarlo Pipo Gonzalez.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about this player, new to Serie A.
So he is new to Serie A, but a lot of people will remember him from this past World Cup, where he featured quite nicely and highly regarded. If we were thinking about the embarrassment that was the Azzurri over the summer, you look at that performance there, and he did a great job of just shutting down Balotelli and the other options, whatever meager forwards there were.
Wasn't hard, but nonetheless.
But even beyond that Italy game, there was a reason why Costa Rica went as far as they did, and a lot of it was due to that very good defense. For most of the summer, the theory was that, or the rumor was that Palermo were going after his international teammate Oscar Duarte, but in reality, Palermo had been after Gonzalez all along, and this is a guy who arrived from MLS, where I guess he had a really good impact with the Columbus Crew. I wish I could tell you more, but I don't watch MLS, so I'm going off a hearsay. So now he comes in, his first game here with Palermo is against Cesena, and for the most part, the Rossonero dominated throughout. I mean, Cesena did not deserve to be within 2 shoelaces of Palermo that match, right? But once again, what you saw based on earlier this season, whether it was against Sampdoria, whether it was against Inter, whether it was against a club like Napoli, well, not so much Napoli, but the point is Palermo had all these leads that they gave up, whether it was a defensive lapse at the end or some foolish mistake they were unduly penalized for, right?
Yeah.
So you're steering at a club right now that has 6 points, has a very difficult match, of course, against Juventus coming up. But for the most part, they have looked very good in all of their games. And I think one of the most incredible things out of all of this, guys, I don't know, can you guess?
The most incredible thing out of all these games?
The manager hasn't been fired yet.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Iachini I don't know, in any other year would have been a dead man.
Well, let's talk about this. What do you think that's attributed to? Is it Iachini's relationship with Zamparini, or is it that Zamparini genuinely feels that the team's been performing well despite the results?
Well, I think it's a little bit twofold here. Here you have Zamparini, who is very much a supporter of Iachini, basically because of what he did for him last season, right? He came in for the mistake that was Gattuso and just had a phenomenal record-breaking season. And, you know, being a loyal guy that Zamparini is, maybe not so much loyal.
Yeah, I wouldn't say loyal is the right adjective.
Right. He wanted to give Iachini a shot, right?
Yeah.
And he stuck by those words. Now, normally when he calls somebody his son, as he has done with Iachini, it's a death wish, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Every time Zamparini has said something like that, chances are he's on the next ship back to the mainland. So even though he said that, we're pretty sure that had Palermo not won that game against Cesena, Iachini would probably be out of a job.
Maybe it's Zamparini getting a little soft in his old age. You know,
you would think.
Well,
you would think
it's the Christmas Carol in Mr. Scrooge comes to mind. You know, at Ebenezer Scrooge at the end of the Christmas Carol, where he's buying geese for everybody.
Zamparini was like visited by like ghosts of managers.
Exactly. That's when Silvio Piola comes up and it's my Iachini.
I'm telling you guys, I would love to establish that narrative if it weren't for the fact that he's been sacking sporting directors.
Yeah, exactly.
So it seems like
it's either one or the other.
The managerial aspect, right? He's got an itchy finger here, a trigger finger, and he's got to do something. Otherwise, he goes stir crazy.
Okay, so realistically, where do you see this Palermo team in comparison to, I guess, to the rest of Serie A? Are they a mid-table team at heart, or where they are right now, near the bottom but not relegation zone? Is that where they're destined to be, you think?
So when I made my predictions for Soccer Italia, which is one of the magazines that Football Italia publishes, I made all these predictions for Serie A, including where I saw every team in the league end up at the end of the season. And for Palermo, I said they can confidently aspire to be a mid-table team. Okay. Not relegation. I don't think they're relegation worthy simply because I believe that there are teams that are absolutely worse than Palermo are, right? And maybe we're seeing some of that unfold as the weeks progress.
And you can argue a lot of the teams that they've already played. To be honest, I don't think Hellas Verona were that much more convincing than Palermo in that, the match a couple of weeks ago.
And that's the thing. There's something about Hellas that has the culo of 1,000 squads.
Oh my God, tell me about it.
I pegged them as one of I thought they were a legitimate contender for relegation this year, just based on how many people they lost, and the fact that they're really relying on Luca Toni to replicate his great season last season. So far, they proved me wrong because, like I said, I mean, they're about as lucky as any other side in the league. Sometimes that's what you need, right?
Absolutely. Lorenzo, before we let go here, some of the players that people should keep tabs on with Palermo. Obviously, Dybala is one of them. Belotti, you mentioned, another. Any other players that come to mind that have really surprised you thus far in their Serie A campaign?
Well, I think, Franco Vasquez is still another one to watch, right? Anybody who didn't necessarily watch Serie B last season might not remember that this is a guy who's been with the club for several years, even though he took a loan spell in Spain and then came back. He was dubbed the successor to Javier Pastore, of course. And while that didn't end up working out too well, he's really coming into his own right now. And the kind of confidence he has now based on where he was even a year or two ago is incredible. And I think he and Dybala have formed this very well partnership where it's almost like they are in unison at times in how they're thinking and how they're moving on the pitch. They're both Argentinian, so they have that connection, but they're kind of best friends off the pitch as well. So they really know where each other's going to be, and I think that's one of the reasons why Belotti, when Iachini doesn't opt for his 3-4-1-2, that's why Belotti is on the bench, because of this great relationship that these two have.
Yeah.
Another guy I would say is one to maybe keep an eye on would be, I guess, to continue with Giancarlo Gonzalez to see how he performs here with Serie A. One of the things that people took away from this last match was how composed he was here in a debut that had a lot riding on the line. I mean, they were 60 seconds away from seeing Iachini out on his guru and starting all over from scratch until Gonzalez scored from that header.
Absolutely.
And if you think that wasn't a relief, all you need to do is watch the reaction after that goal. Dybala looks like he's about to have a heart attack.
Absolutely.
Iachini almost lost his hat, and we know how that goes.
Yeah, we don't want to see that again.
Sorrentino ran out from his goal and ran to the bench to embrace the players. I mean, it meant a lot to these guys, and it kind of relieved a lot of pressure that was building up on them. Despite them playing well, they were just not getting the results. So,
without a question, a huge moral victory there. Right. Last plugs for Accursio Bentivegna, who's from our hometown in Sicily of Schalke. Don't get many players in Serie A from Schalke, so really hope he sees some time. Any chance that happens there?
You know what? That is a fantastic name to bring up, because over the past month and a half, he has really made some headlines among Palermo media, who have been urging for him to kind of get a call up to the senior squad. I mean, he got called up in preseason, right, during the training camp with the club, and he's done a lot of things that have really impressed. He's got a lot of really good talent all around. I mean, he is a very flashy player.
Yep.
This is a guy who, you can draw comparisons to Insigne, right? I mean, instead of Insigne with Napoli, here you have a local kid who's got a very dynamic, entertaining skill set, and he's been showing that, and he's been showcasing that with the Primavera and also with the U18 or the U19s he's playing with. So it's definitely a name to keep on the radar. I don't think he'll get a chance this season, unless things go really poorly or a lot of injuries strike. But he has an interesting name, and more importantly, that sort of dynamic that could easily come forth.
Absolutely, and I know Ant and I are hoping he succeeds. If he does, who knows? We might be renaming this the Accursio Bentivegna Podcast. Don't think it'll get there. But,
name to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. Lorenzo, thank you for joining us. Find him at or on Twitter at ViciniLo, Football Italia, Soccer Italia magazine, and Soccer 360 magazine. It's always a pleasure speaking to our cousin out in Wisconsin, Lorenzo Vicini. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Take care. Look, let me just say, it's nice to get a Palermo victory, okay? Anthony, our producer Anthony, he sleeps better at night. He's basically been up each night. Yeah, he's happier, better to be around.
Nicer
get a little crabby.
Skin's cleared up.
Skin's cleared up, healthier, living a better lifestyle all in all when Palermo wins. So it's great. Look, that's all nice. That's all. One of the people I worked with came up with some phrase. I'm trying to think of it now. This is terrible radio. Life's not all beer and Skittles. I don't know how that applies, but I wanted to say it. What do you know? Roma, Bayern Munich. Okay. Look, this was a great opportunity for Roma to say, hey, we're here. We're something in Europe. We've been cultivating for 2 years now. We've got depth now. We have a scary first 11 here. Let's show Europe, let's show the rest of the world who's watching this what we have. Probably the last thing I expected, but the worst thing for Roma and Serie A, I would say.
I think it's hard to look at it as a knock on Italian football or Serie A as a whole, the thing you got to look at it as is this was probably the first opportunity you said that Roma had to really,
you could argue the Manchester City match, but this was.
And you're right. I think, I think the takeaway from this game is you can't get carried away. They're playing. You could, if not the best team in Europe, one of the best teams in Europe. Team won the Champions League 2 years ago, has plenty of quality players, great manager, and is on a roll right now in their own domestic league. And, so I think to act like maybe you're not a good side that can rip teams apart, even the best teams apart, is crazy. But, what you didn't want to see is that this was an opportunity for Roma to go out and let's say they go out there and they get a result or they lose 2-1 or something like that, and you can kind of maybe something they hang their hat on. Yeah. This was a humiliation in the end.
It was an absolute humiliation. And look, do I think that they're as bad as the 7-1 scoreline read?
No, of course not.
No. Having said that, a team that's fighting for top in Serie A, number one in Serie A.
You don't want to see that. Especially
can't happen.
Well, also, too, I mean, when you talked about the perception it gives to Serie A, I mean, what's the perception that a lot of people have of the German Bundesliga, which is it's a one team thing. It's the same perception that Serie A is really trying to fight against, and how much good does it do them when you see the best team in Germany play right now with consensus the second best team in Italy and just absolutely, thwarting them in this game. You know what I mean? It was embarrassing.
What was that?
Thwarting.
Oh, so it is a word.
Yeah, it's a word.
Okay,
I mean, it's definitely a word, but I don't know if it was necessarily applied in the right manner.
Yeah, but
no, I did. The thwarting. It was a thwarting.
I think thwarting implies some sort of like cunning and trickery. I mean,
there was a lot of cunning and trickery. There was. Did you see Robin?
This was certainly a thrashing.
I have the actual definition here.
Go ahead.
Read it.
Thwart.
Right. Curtis, you got to put your headphones on.
Prevent someone from accomplishing something.
Yeah.
So that happened.
It happened.
Right, so you were right.
Look, I'm not as dumb as I look, or am I? I probably am.
Be.
What?
You could be.
No, but look, Mike, you watched the game. What's your take?
I mean, I was as shocked as anybody. I definitely expected Roma to put up a good fight at home, and to be down so many goals at the half. I mean, I've seen them. What was it? 4 or 5 years ago, Sporting lost to them like 7-0 on aggregate at one point. And I thought that was like probably one of the worst things here. But to see them go down like this, and I mean, they had a pretty solid result at the weekend. Like, some of them were pretty good after the international break. I expected to see some competition from Roma, but it just
and it's important. There. I mean, the worry now is that you can't. This is a bad result, and you gotta, to use a football analogy, American football coach told him, go out, like, bury the football, like, it's the game's over. You can't do anything about it. Exactly. You got to come back and you got to get results now.
Problem is, they're
in a difficult Champions League group. I mean, goal differential. The likelihood the goal differential to come in is possible.
Yeah. And look, they can't let them affect them. They can't let it affect them mentally, right? They can't go into the next match.
And even more importantly, you can't let it affect you in the league.
Yeah.
The teams that do well, sometimes you're gonna have bad results when you're in multiple competitions. They've got to be able to refocus now in Serie A and just say, like we just said, you can't do anything about what was a really bad night for them.
Right.
A night that the players should rightly feel embarrassed to be a part of. You know what I mean? They shouldn't. That's not anything that should be acceptable.
Especially in front of a sold-out Stadio Olimpico, dying for European soccer.
Ready to see a great game and look, and you also got to give some credit to Bayern Munich, who just came out there and ripped them apart. I mean, they looked
nothing
great.
you can say.
They look great. So that's part of it. But again, is it? You want to be careful not to overreact and say, well, that they're going to suck now because they lost this game. But you have the worry, if you're a Roma fan, is what does this do to the players? Because this is a humbling defeat. This isn't something that you shake off a 2-1 loss and you get back to work. You got embarrassed, and this is on the biggest stage for club football in Europe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, this is like basically the most dangerous time in the Champions League too, when you have that middle round where you're playing the same team
back to back,
the home and away there.
Yep.
But I mean, I think they really just got to forget about it, and they really lucked out because CSKA ended up tying City, which Roma is still in second place. So at least it's not like it's like a double whammy. Right now, they're 2 points up on City.
Let me say something too. It's gonna really tell us a lot about what this Roma team is made of, because
you're talking about the second match, the follow-up.
Just even the next month of football. I mean, last year, how many, we saw them encounter real problems when Totti got hurt, but when Juve came out and kind of showed them that there was a gap between them, last year. And this year they went and they just had played Juve a few weeks ago and played them pretty well. You know what I mean? Not to a point where you felt like, Juve's in for a real title race here. We said that on this show a couple weeks ago, and then you watch them come out and they kind of, crap themselves in this game. We're going to learn a lot about what this team is made of and what Rudy Garcia can do to keep them, because if they can come back and rebound, this could ultimately make them a little, a stronger team for going through something like this.
It could make them stronger.
I think that's what we're going to find out, though.
Here's the thing: a 3-1 match, 4-1 match, where you say, "Hey, we got our asses beat today," but there wasn't that much separating us. Let's go back.
We fix a couple things.
We fix a couple things with it. But when it's a 7-1 match, and say you're Francesco Totti, you're on the field for 5 of the goals, you go onto the bench, and they're still scoring when you're on the bench, and all you see is the ball going into your net. It just rocks you. It absolutely rocks you. I've never seen Rudy Garcia be beaten this badly. I think at Lille, maybe when they were in Champions League, I can remember some matches where they were beaten pretty badly.
Never like this, though.
But like this,
you don't see 7-1.
Yeah, you don't see that. We talked about whether this is a hit to Serie A or not. I have to say it is. I mean, just aside from this being one of the top teams in Serie A, right? Mm-hmm. This is a team that represents the resurgence, that represents what could be possible in not just in just a year, really. And to see it kind of thrown around a room like that by a world-class team like Bayern Munich, even myself, who I'm not a Roma fan by any means. I'm a fan of Italian soccer. I'm a fan of seeing Italian teams do well in Europe. It's terrible. It's just a terrible feeling.
It is, but
you guys like calcio? Exactly. I love calcio.
There's got to be a little bit of a caveat here in that, we're not talking. The thing is, we're not talking about just a first place team in Germany. We're talking about Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona. Those teams.
I get that, but it's the top in Germany. It's the top team in Germany, facing arguably the top team in Italy.
No, you're right, but and you can argue it, but let's go down. Let's say Roma's the second best team in Italy. Do you think Roma could beat the second best team in Germany right now? They probably could. Do you even know who the second best team in Germany is right now?
It's not Dortmund, is
right.
it?
Well, exactly. Yeah. So there's your answer. But my point
not
is,
Dortmund.
What my point is that I don't think it is that far away. Is there a huge gap between Roma and Bayern Munich? Yeah, there definitely is. There's a gap between Bayern Munich and a lot of good teams. I think, is it embarrassing for Serie A because it's on this kind of global scale, right? People in America, you tune in and you watch this game. What do you think about Roma after this game? You think that they're probably pretty awful, right? You don't think that they're very good side. So there is a PR element to it, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But I think at the same time, that it's a one-off game, and really what happened in this game to me was that Roma were overmatched. They didn't come out ready to go. Bayern came out. They took advantage of some mistakes. And Roma just – the scarier thing to me is that I think they packed it in. And that's not what you want to see.
Absolutely. All right. Enough of that. After the break, we will talk Serie A this past week and the week to come. Tweet us at Trequartista Pod, and we'll see you after the break. Conversations locked away in my mind. No, I should have treated you better.
know I should have held you closer. I know I should have treated you better. The perfect world, but we're not always what we promised to be. You caught my words in midair. The silence hard as you caught my arm. Conversations out to clear my mind.
All right, we are back, and now we'll talk some Serie A. We talked about Palermo earlier, but let's actually get into the fixtures of this past week, and we'll talk about some of the upcoming fixtures as well. Mike, why don't you take it away with
Serie A roundup.
The Serie A roundup.
We don't have a drop for that yet. Huh?
Not yet. It's coming.
Next
Yeah,
week.
come on. No, just kidding.
Well, you could put Joe's Calcio drop.
That's all right. Well, either way,
I'd rather have Gattuso drops. Honestly,
Oh yeah, what happened to the Gattuso?
you guys like Calcio?
Yeah, I know. We're missing some of
That's
those
all
Gattuso
right.
drops.
Where are all the Gattuso drops, man?
Is this not true?
It's
There you
true.
go.
All right, you have it. You're right. We have some drops. Go ahead.
What turned out to be true was the Sassuolo Juve trap scenario.
Now talk about a trap game. No, I think Sassuolo played a hell of a match. Chances back and forth. Look, we just talked about Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and how they basically made all of their chances, right? They executed all of them. That's what's holding Juventus back from being a top-class team. They had dozens of opportunities in this past Sassuolo match. Paul Pogba on a beautiful – he took on three defenders, beautiful one.
Raging Pogba in my pants.
and it was a missed opportunity. That is what's holding Juventus back. And that's really what's been holding them back for 2 years now. They have the opportunities. It's about executing. This match, they didn't execute. Maybe they took a little off because it's a Champions League week, but regardless, they had the opportunity.
Do you think they overlooked Sassuolo?
I don't think that they did, because even last season, Sassuolo gave them trouble in both fixtures.
But I'm saying, the mentality of the players.
It's too. I think it's too early in the season to overlook teams, especially a Sassuolo, who's. They've beaten Inter. They've had a decent season already. So I don't think it was a matter of overlooking. I just think it was a matter of not capitalizing on their opportunities. And let's see how they do in the Champions League fixture tomorrow. But one thing I've noticed about Juventus,
I love Juve.
exactly, and a certain player on Juve. Fernando Llorente, just not getting the production out of him this season.
Not
finishing, but even just losing the ball in opportune
he's getting
times.
the consistent. He's a striker that needs service in order to be productive. Do you think he's getting that service?
I don't think he's getting it as much as he needs it.
Yeah.
But what I will say is in hold-up opportunities, in opportunities where his back's to the goal, where he should be playing off other players or other players should be playing off him, he's letting go of the ball. He's getting dispossessed very easily, and it's really just corroding the attack. It's an issue, and you're going to start to see Alvaro Morata get a lot more playing time on this first squad.
Maybe he should.
And maybe he should. Absolutely. What do you think?
Well, I think that's the biggest issue right now, right? Is being able to get goals. Defensively, they give up one goal to Sassuolo. They haven't been giving up a lot of goals. We all know that. This year the defense looks very solid. You had mentioned that you felt like they looked maybe a little bit more adventurous going forward, a little less rigid under Allegri, but we haven't seen that necessarily manifested in terms of goals right now. And the biggest culprit, I think, is probably Llorente. If he's going to be that as you're fond of saying, the first point attacker.
Yeah.
he's going to be that guy.
Prima punta.
The prima punta.
Oh, you say that so nicely.
So if he's going to be that guy, though, I think, like you said, there's an understanding that there's going to be some time when your back is to the goal and you're going to bring people
Exactly.
in. And you're also going to have to, maybe make do on vulturing 2-3 chances, half chances, crosses. I've never really thought Llorente was that guy. I think last year he got a lot of opportunities and a lot of service. And when he was in a good vein of scoring, you saw how many opportunities he had a game. He's not a one shot, one goal type of player. I think he's more like a 3-4 shots goal type of player. That could be an issue if there's not going to be a lot of chances getting created.
Yeah. One silver lining for Juventus is that you are getting a lot of production off the bench, at least from Sebastian Giovinco. That's not something you could say for the last 2 years. Mike, is this a blip in the radar for Juventus, or is this something that maybe they should worry about?
I don't think it's something they should worry too much about. Like we said, they're coming back from an international break, Champions League in the middle of the week. It was probably a game they probably could have afforded to take off.
Yeah.
Granted, Roma won pretty easily, 3-0. They're only a point back right now, but so Juve have bigger fish to fry in the Champions League this year, and they obviously haven't had the best start in that.
Yeah.
We should probably touch on that real quick. How do you think they're going to fare against Olympiacos?
Look, I think that it's going to be a gritty match. I don't think it's going to be a match that Juve just kind of walk over them. Yeah. It's tough to predict Juventus in Champions League, and honestly, I've given up at this point. I'd like to say that they win, probably not comfortably, but I have no idea. I can't tell you that I've watched any Olympiacos matches, but what I can guarantee is that it's not going to be an easy victory for Juventus, and it's going to be ugly. I would expect a lot of cards.
Similar to like Galatasaray. It's always a pretty hostile environment down there. Remember, Benfica ended up slipping up against Olympiacos last year. They
were good last year in the Champions League.
Yeah, they advanced in that group. They beat Benfica at home, they drew them at home, and then Benfica lost a 1-0 game in Greece, and it's never easy playing down there.
Yeah, what do you expect, Noah?
Yeah, I think it's Olympiacos is going to be organized. They're going to be difficult to break down. That's the real test for Juventus in this game. I mean, teams, I think, are starting to figure out that, if you're organized at the back and Juve can have 60% of the possession. Can you create the chances? Can you get the goals? That's the challenge, and I think Olympiacos is going to play that way and see if they can hit them on the break where Juve maybe make those defenders turn around and try to run and spread out.
And we saw that Juventus had some trouble with Roma on the counter.
Yeah, possibly, exactly. And so I think that's the way you try to play them if you're Olympiacos. Look, you're not going to match them for possession and quality in the midfield probably. So be simple, be organized, and try to get your chances on the break. I think that's that's the blueprint for playing a team like Juve right now. If you're Olympiacos, so yeah, I think it's a tight game. I think Juve is capable of winning. I think they really, to be honest, not that they need to win, but a draw or loss in this game, it's going to be a sour taste for everybody.
If they get 4 points out of those 2 games, then I'd consider it a victory. Right now, every team's got 3 points, so. They're looking to, separate from the pack at this point. Yeah,
that group is wide open. What else do we have for Serie A this past week? I know we had that Napoli and Inter.
Yeah, the Inter Napoli, which was the pick of the week last week.
The pick of the week.
That was Mike's pick of the week.
You guys like calcio? Well, the great thing about this match, right, is you have Mazzarri facing his old team and Benitez facing his old team.
Fancy that.
You think Gattuso would like that?
Fuck off.
I don't think you would either. 1-1 match, but
2-2.
Oh, 2-2. Sorry, 2-2.
1-1 up until the death.
1-1. Yeah. But it seemed really respectful to me.
Finish.
Yeah, wild finish, but not as wild as I thought it was.
Two teams
during
that
the
I
match.
think two teams that were happy to get a point.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean. I think that not that they played that way at the end. I mean, they were going for it and going for 3 points, but I think in the end these are teams that are trying to be able to stabilize themselves after the starts of the season they've had. So
right,
for Benitez even more so. I mean, Mazzarri, it's hard to say because Inter's kind of just still a little bit of an enigma right now, and the ownership's still a little bit of an enigma. And are they going to give this guy some rope to develop something? And are they going to just cut it loose? I mean, it's hard to say. And I think
with
Benitez, I think he's even his seat is going to be toasty. I think soon.
Do you think Aurelio De Laurentiis And I just like saying that name.
Yeah, I think that's why you said that.
Yeah, I did. Do you think he's content with Benitez as his manager?
No, I don't think so.
Do you think that maybe Benitez?
They brought Benitez in to me for one reason, which was this team was building up last year to make a run at a Scudetto, but even more so to make a run at the Champions League. And they didn't do those things. They had now in their defense a little bit, it wasn't the easiest Champions League group in the world to have last year. I think they had Dortmund and Arsenal in that group, and that's that's a tricky test, but Benitez didn't deliver. Didn't deliver in Italy, didn't deliver in Europe. So, I think Benitez is a good manager. I don't doubt that. But the question is, does he have the belief of the players? Is he playing the right system? The squad rotation that's just part of his deal as a manager. Is that affecting the players? And ultimately, if he can't start getting consistent results for Napoli in the next month, I think he might be out of job.
Mike, looking forward to next week. What would you say is your
pick of the week?
Pick of the week.
I'm going to go ahead and say Sampdoria versus Roma on Saturday.
Ooh, why is that?
Well, I mean, second versus third, and plus it's Roma's first game after that loss. I mean,
and not an easy game. Not an easy game.
That they're playing against Luigi Ferrari as well. So it's going to be a hell of a game right there. You're gonna imagine the atmosphere is gonna be tremendous.
I think you guys think the Gamper Trophy is gonna be in attendance for that one.
Absolutely. Where do you think the Gamper Trophy is in the Sampdoria Stadium or the?
Well,
it's probably on the stadium.
It's not in the stadium. A lot of people don't know that. It's actually buried beneath the stadium in a secret vault down there that only 2 people have the key to.
I wonder what the password to that vault is. They have some sort of electric.
It's Gamper.
It's Gamper 9.
Gamper 9.
All right, it's that time of the show. Before we close it off and tell you to go screw yourselves, it's grievance time. Mike, should we skip you?
Let's do a quick one. Let's keep it quick all the way around. I'm just going to go ahead and say the MBTA. Had to wait a good 20 minutes between stops today and stand by because of train traffic ahead of us.
Oh, you ever been on the Orange Line, man? It is miserable.
I'm sure.
MBTA is Massachusetts Bay Transit Authority, just for those outside of Massachusetts. The subway systems in Boston. I do. Look, I know it was a 7-1 match, Bayern Munich and Roma, but for Fox Sports to not be playing it on Fox Sports 1 or Fox Sports 2, it's insulting. It's a little insulting.
What are the games they play?
Friggin' Chelsea Maribor. Like, come on.
Maribor.
Come on.
A lot of Maribor.
You know what?
A lot of Maribor fans in the U.S.
I think it's that weasel Eric Winalda that has something to do with it.
One quick thing we should mention is that ESPN 3 is like sub-licensed some of these games from Fox. So you can stream them via ESPN 3.
Except the Roma Bayern Munich match today. Couldn't stream that one.
Couldn't get that one?
They got you.
They got us there.
They got you there. Quickly, Landon Donovan is a great player, but having 5 for fighting, serenade him before the game against Seattle was
beautiful.
Was too much for me. And I'm as big a 5 for fighting fan as
he is. He's got the entire collection.
I asked him to play Superman for every show, and I've never been given that opportunity. But it was too much. I mean, our friend Devin Kluwer even tweeted out, if you tuned into ESPN, contrary to popular, it wasn't an actual Landon Donovan testimonial. The game counted in the standings.
Yeah.
That's a repeat take from Devin, but it does. It was a little too much.
Producer Ant, do you have a grievance?
It's more of a future one. Olen will lose next week, and I'd like to see the coach fired. Because that's half the entertainment.
Okay. That's a take right there. We want to thank Lorenzo Vicini for coming on the show at Vicini Low. Read his stuff on Football Italia, Soccer Italia Mag. Just a hell of a guy. Mike, Noah, it's a pleasure. Anthony, thank you.
Thanks.
Shut up.